I'm still working on the pauldron and the armor. I still have the strapping to do. That's a little tricky because I don't have the tunic, so that's just going to change how everything fits together. But I'm continuing with the shoulder armor. So there's this little piece. It's two pieces. I just cut it as one. I think I've got it the right size. I drew it the first time. Of course, I had to re-sketch it because it just was too big. When you look at it, kind of the proportions, it hangs down from a leather strap from the shoulder pauldron. And it looks about right. One of those things I guess I won't know for sure until I cut it out of foam. But so far, it looks good. So I'm going to cut this thing out. I think we're all set. And of course, D-rings will hang from here. There'll be leather strapping that goes back up. Leather strapping, there's 3 straps from the top. This has a curve to it. I think we're all set. So I'm cutting out I don't know, they're not really pauldrons. I guess just arm armor. So this is what it looks like. It is roughly this shape. I've cut out the top piece because it's multi-segmented. You've got this top piece, the bottom piece comes out from underneath it. They are not directly connected. So what I'm going to do is that, oh man, that pencil doesn't really show up, does it? So I'm going to add a tab to that, so that way I can glue it to the back side of this. So I cut it out the exact size. Well, I either have to mount it to the joint, not as strong, and then it's going to be flush with it. So I want to glue it from underneath so it retains that segmented look. So it's an added detail. It's how the reference photo is. It's just going to look good that way. But if you're going to do that, you just need to add a tab. And you can see here, you can see how messed up this foam cut is. My blade was getting dull. I was trying to push it. It should look like that, completely smooth. Throw those beside each other. So you can see, this is what it looks like when your blade's dull. If your blade's not just slicing through that foam like butter, blade's dull. And so you're going to get these rough cuts that either are going to have to go back and try to sand down and smooth out, or it's going to look bad. So for a better quality product, you got to keep that blade sharp. I let these shoulder guards, shoulder armor, I let them cure overnight right here. I cut a little angle out of the back side so I get that nice fold. And when you do those kind of glue ups with foam and contact cement, it wants to open back up. So I left it here so it could sit overnight, glue could fully dry, and it wouldn't want to pull that joint open. So as you can see, it's a very nice, tight joint on there. And so I put it between the clamps, that way I can have it spaced right. Now I use this foam here just so I wouldn't get these ridges on the shoulder armor. And that way this stuff's sacrificial, and I end up with a very clean looking piece of armor. Though I guess I did get a little bit of the grooves in there. I guess I should put the smooth side out. But that'll come out, hopefully. It is finally time to start cutting on the skull. I'm going to be using an air saw just to cut out the bottom and get a couple ideas about things. A sharp razor blade would be sharp enough to cut through this. First, I'm just going to cut the bottom out and try and get an idea of where we are in this. I mean, I'm probably going to split it up the back just so I can start to even begin fitting on my head. Probably have to cut it all the way in half. So we're going to have some fun. But air saws can be dangerous, so you always have to be careful. Look, I can't be reasoned with. I can't be bargained with. I absolutely will not stop until this helmet is on my head. Or until it's dinner time, one of the two. But the goal is to get this thing on. I mean, it's doesn't quite fit just yet. I took some pictures. I just kind of did a snapshot of this configuration just so I could Photoshop real quick just how I thought this needed to change. Like how short is it overall, how narrow is it overall, how big does that need to increase. My measurements are it needs to be 50% taller. I mean, based on like right here. Rough estimate, that seems a bit large. I don't know. The width, I've got about 25% wider. I mean, we're only talking about a couple inches of 50%. I mean, let's say that's like 6 to 8. 50% would be 3 to 4 inches bigger, which that may not be all that wrong. If I can split it up and kind of get it, even if it doesn't fit perfect on my head, I can just kind of use some tape to figure out, all right, how far does it need to be spaced, and we can go from there. So that is the plan. I want to see this thing, man. I want to be peering out from these dead eyes and scaring people. So I figured out where I'm going to cut it. I'm going to slice through each eye, kind of down right here, up, dead center, along to the back. The eyes need to be wider. I think I can keep the nasal bridge. I don't know where I'm going to cut the mouth. I may not even need the mouth. I mean, I'm going to have the half mask, but I do want the cheeks open, so I kind of need this area. I mean, could fake that somehow. I don't know. I mean, because with the mask, if it's covered in the middle, I could just split this whole thing, and you just have a gap there. It wouldn't matter. You know, the hinge part of the jaw, that is a little tricky with how I want to do things. I don't know. for right now, if I can just get this thing fitting over my head, we'll go from there. Just split the eye, split it all. I'll figure out the rest later. You know, I might just do some plastic fill-in. I've cut out a lot of this side anyway. I don't know. I mean, because all you'd see is the jawbone. I'm not sure this jawbone goes back far enough. It probably doesn't. That's where we're at. We'll figure it out. So I've got this thing all cut apart. I mean, this jaw, upper jaw, yeah, it is way too narrow. I need to kind of flatten that out because these points are sticking in my face where you can like fit my face. I mean, like the eye, the nasal part, it kind of fits if you bend it a little bit. The side pieces, I mean, you're beginning to get there, but it needs to be taller, certainly. And the whole back, it's way off on the back. I mean, it is, only halfway through my head. So I might just cut it in half, cut the whole back out. I don't really need that. I mean, really, I just kind of need this area, really just mask like. And with a half mask, I might just cut the whole thing off right here. I just want the side pieces, because the mask is a little see-through. So I may end up, I mean, I can't cut but so much of the nose out, but maybe like from this black point down, just cut all that out, cut the mouth out. That'll solve all that with the half mask. And the side pieces where I want to see some jaw in there, maybe I just don't. I don't know. I mean, the side pieces, I could always back it with some kind of cloth. But I'd love to see some jaw in there, and maybe I could do that. I mean, if I cut these pieces out, I mean, I'm gonna have the jaw. I don't know. See if I can hold all this together. Oh, there it goes. And this is our progress thus far. We got a little ways to go. I feel like I look like that dude in The Walking Dead. What is it, like? He's the Whisperer. Bravo. I don't know. He's that really tall dude played by Ryan somebody. So I don't know, man. This is looking closer to a mask. I need a riser in the head. I mean, these head pieces, they need to be taller to fit over my head. I have these cheek pieces that come in just a little bit too far, where it's kind of kicking the mask out. I need it to straighten up more. And overall, it needs to be a little bit taller, not by much. I wonder if I can just heat form these to give me a little bit more space. Obviously, I need to reconnect the nose piece, but it's come together. I mean, you can kind of see where this is going. I mean, the half mask is going to reach to my nose. It's going to come around right here. So I need to figure out how it interfaces with the cheekbone there, but I need to cut that piece out, just this thing is a little more flat. So I'm going to use styrene to fill in the gaps on this mask that I've created. Nice amount of styrene. This is 0.04 styrene. Once you score it, you can just snap it, and it'll break very easily. But it is, as long as you don't score it, it's very strong. So I don't quite know how I'm going to attach it. I mean, yes, I'm going to use this to fill in the gaps, but I don't know if I'm going to try to like weld it from behind with some mesh. I may just do a second piece. I mean, I'm going to have to shape it to fit the mask the best I can. Then maybe I just do a piece behind it, glued to it. I don't know yet. Get these pieces, shape them to fit the mask, fit them in there flush. And I guess just glue something behind it. I don't know. I thought about maybe doing mesh, but this stuff's really thin, so I don't know how far. I can't really embed mesh very far, because that's thin. First, cut pieces, shape them. We'll go from there. We'll figure all that out. Because one thing I'll have to do is that I'm going to have to take some curve out of here. I need to straighten this whole thing up, which that will accept. It will change the shape of this piece. Instead of being straight up, we'll need to do it triangular. I'm guessing. We'll figure that out. Plastics and solvents, you gotta take care of that stuff. So my super glue is dried up, and I really want to proceed right now, which of course, when you proceed without the right materials and supplies, things don't always go well, but you know what, I'm willing to risk it right now. So what I've done, I've shaped my piece of plastic here. You can see a little white strip in there. I've heated it and shaped it with a heat gun to, get it close. I mean, it's hard to get it exact because I need an attachment point. If I could attach one corner, I could start to shape the rest of it for now, I'm just going with it. It is pretty close, and I think I'm just gonna, I don't know how I'm gonna correct it being uneven. Maybe just add more plastic. I potentially could take acetone and a little bit of plastic to dissolve it into kind of a paste and fill in some gaps, which I very well might do. For right now, I put this in there. I'm gonna use, I guess I'm gonna use epoxy, because that's the only thing I have in hand right now that'll kind of fill those gaps and bridge those gaps. I mean, maybe I could melt some, maybe I could just do acetone and plastic right now. I don't know, I've never tried that. Maybe that's worth trying instead of epoxy. You know, instead of just putting epoxy in there, maybe I'll just take a strip of plastic and epoxy it from the back. That way it's got a kind of a bridge across everything, which is really what I need. I mean, just this butt joint, it's not strong. So if I run something across those butt joints, it's gonna be a lot stronger. So we're gonna try that. We're gonna hope for the best. Epoxy's gonna take, I think it's 5-minute epoxy. Never seems to dry as the quick as you want it to. We're gonna go for it. Let me cut that strip, let me glue that thing in there. Maybe we're cooking. So what I'm doing, I'm heating this piece of plastic. The thing gets really hot, so I'm using pliers. And then I'm trying to put it over the spot I'm trying to glue together really quick so I can kind of get it to melt in place into shape to see if that'll work. So that is the plan. It's kind of working. It gets really hot very fast, but it also dries really fast. So if I can epoxy that strip over there and bridge all the gaps, I'll be better off. I've heated it, it's kind of to shape. Because if I just heat it in there while it's on the plastic, it's going to melt all the plastic. So I got to heat it off and then get it on really quick. I think it's about there. Let's glue this sucker together. Ended up using Gorilla Glue. Why? Because my first epoxy dried up. My second epoxy dried up. That's after my super glue is dried up. So I'm using Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue is awesome. Not going to dry as quick as I'd like. So I did use clothespins just to put a little bit of pressure on the strip. Because, you know, if you're gluing something, you want some pressure on it, just to reinforce that bond. I'm probably going to end up gluing my clothespins to the thing, but hopefully they'll pull off. So on the belt, I'm using these Tri-Glides. The only way they work is if you sew one end, and then, you know, the other end of the strap will go up and over and in. So I need to sew it in, so I've got a sewing machine. I'm just going to, you know, run maybe 2 stitches, just 2 stronger than 1, right? So make sure it's going to work. That's all there is to it. That is sewing it. So you noticed when I started, went forward, then back, then at the end I went forward and back. That's just to knot it to make sure that it doesn't unravel, because if you don't do that, it's not going to knot it. I don't know. I'm not great at sewing. I just do enough to get the job done. So I'm applying contact cement to, you know, the shoulder pads, the belt, and the webbing. And the webbing, the contact cement just soaks right through. And I've had this happen before. I don't quite remember how I did it. I think what I did was apply the spray adhesive on here to create kind of a base so the contact cement won't soak through. I think that's what I did. I don't quite remember, so I'm going to try that. So I've been working on my belt buckle, and what I'm going to do, because I've got the belt here, and I need the belt buckle to slide over the front, so I'm going to basically create a little framework behind it. So I'm going to modify that slightly. Instead of having leather on the inside, I'm doing leather on the outside, just so when you look at the belt buckle, there's leather at each edge, at the top and bottom, so you're looking from the outside, you can't see anything. I will use this poly weave on the inside, and that'll go behind the belt to hold the belt buckle in place, and I'll have 3 straps, that way each end and the middle is held in place, so it all looks right, but it'll allow me to slide it back and forth so I can access the buckles. But when I slide over, it'll conceal the buckles. So that's going to work. The buckle will be attached to this leather strap. I'm going to have leather going across the top just to hide any gaps here. There will be straps on the back like this one. So is this the best way to lay this out? I don't know, but I'm just using I'm using tape to figure out where I need to sew these pieces together, and you see how this framework has come together. I'm going to have these 3 bands on the back. I'm going to have a piece running across the bottom. This is the top. And this thing is going to slide back and forth. So when I buckle this thing up and tie these spokes together, the whole thing is going to slide over, conceal that. This buckle will be attached to the leather. So I think it'll work out well. I mean, the whole thing will be removable if I need it to be removable. I mean, this seems a little weird. I could have sewn this better But overall, I don't think it's really going to matter. I think it's going to look fine as is because nobody's being looking that close at it. So here's what we got before the final glue up. So these are going to be the outside edges. I have them leather because they are going to show just around the edge of the buckle like so. So I want to see that leather. This leather will get dyed black. The whole belt will be black. This is the inside. I just have these tabs just to hold everything in place. It's going to make sure that when the belt is around me, the buckle's not going to be poofing or poking or bulged in any way. Like it's going to be tight to the belt, which is what I want. But basically, I started with these outside tabs. I did leather because I want it to be leather because you're going to see that. I was going to do leather on the inside, but I realized, why don't you do this poly web? That's going to be a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier. And so I just did 3 tabs, keep everything together. Got leather on the top and bottom just because you potentially could see these aspects from the costume. I just don't want to see the foam. I like to keep up that illusion. So after I sew these final 3 spots, this thing is done. Well, aside from gluing the buckle to it, and it will just be glued directly to the leather, probably contact cement. But first I need to paint this thing. It'll get painted black and gold. I need to dye all this black. I also have the leather and the rest of the belt I need to do, but that needs to be dyed black as well. All that is cut, really just needs to be dyed black. So that's the next step in the belt evolution. Since I was sewing, I figured I'd go ahead and just try to knock out all my sewing. I did my D-rings for the shoulder pauldrons. Just a stitch on the back, fold it over. So they go on the pauldrons like so. I mean, scale-wise, they look a little big. These are 1.5 inch D-rings. They probably should be 1 inch D-rings. I don't know. I'll probably just keep them outside. I mean, I like the detail of it. And maybe once it's on the costume, it won't look too bad. Right now, it just looks a little large. But I'm committed to the 1.5 because that's what I got. And I'm not sure there's anything smaller. I mean, there probably is somewhere, but I don't know. It just looks a little big. But I'll probably just contact cement that to the pauldrons after the pauldrons are painted. But I'm sewing. I just want to knock out all my sewing machine stuff. And I think, other than some big stuff like the tabard, that's it. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I need to get back to my skull helmet. I need to wait 2 hours for the Gorilla Glue to dry. It's been over 2 hours, but I just ended up sewing the belt and all these things. I mean, like, my little buckle thing. I mean, that is all done. It came out really well. I need to glue the buckle to that, but I need to paint everything. So I'm getting to the point where a lot of things start to need to get painted. But like the shoulder armor, the bracers, the shin armor, that's all silver. So I'd like to get all that done in one go and just paint it in all one step. So I may start working on the bracers. I'm trying to think what else is next. Actually, I need to work on the skull, then the bracers. Oh, man, the tunic, the tabard, the undershirt. I haven't done any of that. I probably need to get that at some point. I need to find the material for the tabard. A lot of little things floating around. That's why it's nice to have multiple parts of this costume where the tabard, the gray wool didn't work. I can move on to something else, except now I'm forgetting to go back to. Oh, and this spear, the kunai and the spear and the chain. Whew, I got a lot to do. And the chain on the belt. Okay, there's more than I thought. There's still a lot to do, but I'm going to keep proceeding.